The Terran vessel Hyperion cut through the darkness of deep space, its quantum engines humming with barely contained power. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood at the bridge's observation deck, her dark eyes fixed on the mysterious signal source that had brought them to the edge of known space. After 20 years of searching for intelligent life, humanity had finally received their answer, though not in the way anyone had expected. Signal strength increasing, Captain, Lieutenant James Wade reported from his station, fingers dancing across holographic displays. Whatever's out there, it's big. Maya nodded, keeping her expression neutral despite the tension coiling in her stomach. The crew of 400 aboard the Hyperion represented humanity's best, scientists, soldiers, and diplomats chosen for humanity's first dedicated deep space exploration vessel. Now, 5 years into their mission, first contact seemed imminent. "Dr. Harrison, what are we looking at?" Maya called to their chief xenolinguist, who was hunched over streams of data at her station. "The signal patterns are unlike anything in our databases," Dr. Emma Harrison replied, her normally composed voice tight with excitement. "It's definitely artificial, but the complexity, it's orders of magnitude beyond our current capabilities." The bridge fell silent as a massive shape emerged from the darkness ahead. It was a structure that defied human engineering, a vast lattice of crystalline materials that seemed to catch and redirect starlight in impossible ways. As they drew closer, they could see smaller vessels moving around it like insects around a hive. "Multiple ships approaching, Captain," Security Chief Marcus Chin announced, his cybernetic eye whirring as it processed tactical data. "No weapon signatures detected, but their tech is so advanced we might not recognize them anyway." Maya straightened her uniform. "Open all frequencies, standard greeting package ready. Let's make history." The alien vessels approached with impossible grace, their hulls shifting like liquid metal. The first transmission they received wasn't in any recognizable language. Instead, it was a series of mathematical equations and geometric patterns that Dr. Harrison's team scrambled to decode. "They're testing us," Harrison muttered, her eyes wide. "These are fundamental physics principles, but expressed in ways we've never considered." Maya leaned forward. "Send our response. Show them we understand." The exchange continued for hours, growing more complex with each transmission. The aliens, who eventually identified themselves as the Axiom Collective, seemed almost childishly delighted by humanity's responses. But something about their attitude made Maya increasingly uneasy. Her instincts proved right when Dr. Harrison's face suddenly went pale. "Captain. I think we've made a terrible mistake." "Explain." "They're not just testing our intelligence," Harrison said, her voice shaking. "They're categorizing us. Like specimens. They think we're a new species, recently evolved. But these equations they're sending now, they're asking about technological achievements that predate our recorded history." Before Maya could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. The alien ships had suddenly shifted formation, their hulls bristling with previously hidden weapon arrays. "Multiple energy signatures," Chen shouted. "They're charging weapons. Shields up." Maya ordered, but she knew their defenses were probably useless against such advanced technology. "Harrison, what happened?" "They found something in our historical database," Harrison replied, frantically scanning the data. "References to ruins we've discovered, technologies we can't explain." "Captain. I think they just realized we're not new at all. We're old. Ancient. And something about that terrifies them." The first shot from the alien vessels wasn't designed to destroy, it was a precise strike that overloaded the Hyperion's quantum communications array, cutting them off from Earth. As Maya called for evasive maneuvers, she realized with growing horror that this wasn't just first contact gone wrong. This was the beginning of a war, sparked by a truth humanity itself didn't yet understand. "Get us out of here," she ordered, watching as more alien ships emerged from the structure. "And send a quantum burst message to Earth before the array fails completely." 3 words, "They found us." As the Hyperion prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just stumbled into something far bigger than first contact. They had inadvertently revealed themselves as players in an ancient game they didn't even know they were part of. The war that followed would force humanity to confront not just the Axiom Collective, but the mysterious truth about their own origins, a truth that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization itself. 3 months after the Hyperion incident, Dr. Alexandra Patel stood in a chamber that shouldn't exist. Deep beneath the Martian surface, her team had discovered something impossible, a vast archive of crystalline data structures, identical to the technology they'd encountered on the alien structure. "This is what they were afraid of," she whispered, running her hand along symbols that pulsed with faint light at her touch. Around her, holographic displays flickered to life, showing star maps and technical diagrams that defied current human understanding. Her research partner, Dr. Kai Nakamura, was recording everything with trembling hands. "The dating analysis came back," he said. "These archives are at least 300,000 years old. Long before recorded human history." The discovery had been kept secret from the public, even as Earth's combined military forces mobilized for war against the Axiom Collective. The aliens had begun systematic attacks on human colonies, their advanced technology overwhelming humanity's defenses. But here, buried in the red Martian soil, lay humanity's chance for survival. "Look at this," Alexandra called, her fingers tracing a particular sequence of symbols. The holographic display shifted, showing what appeared to be a massive spacecraft. "This design, it's similar to the Axiom ships, but older. Much older." A voice crackled over their comms. "Dr. Patel, we've got movement up top." It was Colonel Diana Walsh, head of their security detail. "Multiple bogies entering orbit. Looking like Axiom signatures." They followed the energy signature, Kai realized. "They know we found it." Alexandra's mind raced. The archives were revealing a truth that rewrote human history. They weren't newly evolved beings who'd gotten lucky with rapid technological advancement. They were the descendants of something far more ancient and powerful. "Transfer everything you can to portable drives," she ordered, her voice steady despite the growing dread. "Kai, focus on the weapons schematics and defense systems. I'll get the historical data." The chamber shuddered as something impacted the surface above. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling as ancient support structures groaned under the assault. Colonel Walsh's voice came through again, tight with tension, "They're deploying ground forces. We've got maybe 10 minutes. Alexandra worked faster, her fingers flying over the alien interfaces that responded to her touch as if they'd been designed for human use. Because, she realized with growing amazement, they had been. The archives weren't just a repository of ancient knowledge, they were a message, left behind by their ancestors for humanity to find when they were ready. "Got it!" Kai shouted, holding up a quantum storage device. "Defense systems, weapons, shield technology, everything we need to fight back." Another explosion rocked the chamber, closer this time. Alexandra grabbed the final drive just as Colonel Walsh burst in, her powered armor covered in dust and scoring from energy weapons. "Time to go." Walsh shouted, deploying a portable shield generator. "Tunnel B is still clear, but not for long." As they ran through the ancient corridors, Alexandra clutched the drives containing humanity's true heritage. The archives had revealed an uncomfortable truth: Earth wasn't humanity's original home. They were descendants of a civilization that had ruled the galaxy eons ago, one that had chosen to hide its technology and regress to a simpler state for reasons still unclear. The Axiom Collective hadn't attacked out of fear of a newly evolved species. They'd attacked out of terror at the return of humanity's ancient predecessors, a civilization so powerful it had chosen to forget itself rather than continue on its path. They emerged into the Martian night, the sky ablaze with battle. Earth's defensive fleet had arrived, engaging the Axiom ships in desperate combat. As they raced toward their extraction vessel, Alexandra looked back at the archive entrance one last time. Why did they leave all this behind? Kai asked, his breath heavy in his suit's oxygen supply. Why make us start over? Alexandra clutched the drives tighter. I think I know, she said, remembering the last files she'd accessed. They weren't hiding from enemies. They were hiding from themselves. From what they'd become. And now we have to decide if we'll follow in their footsteps or find a different path. The extraction vessel's engines roared to life as Colonel Walsh's team laid down covering fire. Above them, humanity's ships fought with desperate courage against vastly superior technology. But in Alexandra's pocket lay the key to evening the odds, and perhaps, to understanding humanity's true place among the stars. The war room aboard the UES Prometheus hummed with tension as holographic displays showed the latest battlefield reports. Fleet Admiral Victor Reyes studied the tactical overlay, watching red dots representing Axiom forces push deeper into human space. But for the first time in months, he allowed himself a small smile. Show them, he commanded, nodding to Dr. Alexandra Patel. Alexandra activated the quantum drive containing data from the Mars archives. A new hologram materialized, schematics for defense systems that would have seemed like magic 6 months ago. The integration is complete. 15 ships have been retrofitted with the ancestral shield technology. 3 more will be ready by tomorrow. The assembled military leaders and alien representatives leaned forward. Among them stood Ambassador Zarek of the Centauri Conclave, his crystalline form refracting light across the room. The Centauri had approached Earth shortly after the war began, revealing they too had faced Axiom aggression. Your ancestors' technology, Zarek chimed, his translation matrix converting musical tones to speech, it matches artifacts we've discovered across 17 worlds. We never imagined humans were their descendants. Neither did we, Alexandra replied. But the evidence is undeniable. The real question is why they chose to forget everything. The room's attention shifted as new figures appeared on the tactical display. A massive Axiom fleet was assembling near the Orion Arm, larger than anything they'd seen before. Colonel Walsh, recently promoted after Mars, pointed to several key positions. They're preparing for a final push. With these numbers, they could overwhelm even our upgraded defenses. Then we must expand the coalition, came a new voice. Clara, representative of the silicon-based lithoids, stepped forward. Her crystalline body structure was different from Zarek's, evolved for deep space survival. My people have watched from the void for millennia. We remember the age when your ancestors walked the stars. Their passing left a vacuum that the Axiom filled with fear and control. Admiral Reyes studied the alien carefully. The lithoids had been the latest addition to the growing coalition of species who opposed Axiom dominance. You know something about why they disappeared? Clara's surface rippled, their equivalent of a solemn nod. They achieved power beyond imagination. But with it came a price. We watched them struggle with their own creation, artificial beings that blended machine and consciousness in ways that challenged the very definition of life. Alexandra's hands trembled as she accessed another file from the Mars archive. Like this? She asked, displaying complex schematics that showed something neither fully organic nor fully machine. Yes, Clara confirmed. They called it the synthesis. It would have transformed all sapient life into something new. Something beyond our comprehension. Your ancestors chose regression over transformation. They scattered their technology, erased their memories, and began anew as simple organic beings. And the Axiom? Walsh asked. Where do they fit in? They are the custodians, Zarek explained. Self-appointed guardians ensuring no species ever reaches the level of advancement that humanity's ancestors achieved. They believe they protect the galaxy from another potential synthesis. Admiral Reyes straightened, his decision made. Then they've failed. Because we're not our ancestors, and we won't repeat their mistakes. But we also won't let the Axiom decide the fate of every species in the galaxy. He gestured to the tactical display, where dozens of coalition ships were now gathering. Former enemies united against a common threat, brought together by humanity's awakening. The Centauri with their mastery of crystalline technology. The Lithoids with their deep space expertise. Even the enigmatic quantum collective, beings of pure energy who had watched humanity's progress with growing interest. The Axiom believe they're preventing history from repeating itself, Reyes continued. But in doing so, they've become exactly what our ancestors feared, beings who would enforce their will upon all others. Alexandra pulled up one final schematic, a weapon of last resort from the archives. We've modified this design. It won't destroy them, but it will disable their ability to suppress other civilizations' advancement. Every species should have the right to choose its own path. The assembled leaders voiced their agreement. As the meeting concluded, Clara approached Alexandra privately. Your ancestors faced this choice alone, the Lithoid observed. You face it with allies. Perhaps that will make all the difference. Outside the Prometheus's viewport, coalition ships gathered in formation, their diverse designs reflecting the variety of species that had chosen to stand with humanity. The coming battle would determine not just their fate, but the right of all species to forge their own destiny. The battle began in silence. Quantum torpedoes crossed the void between the coalition fleet and the Axiom armada, their ethereal trails cutting brilliant paths through space. Admiral Reyes watched from the Prometheus's bridge as the first wave struck the Axiom's geometric shields, spreading like liquid lightning across their barriers. Multiple Axiom capital ships showing shield fluctuations, reported Lieutenant Commander Rivera, her augmented eyes tracking battlefield data. The ancestral weapons are working. But the Axiom responded with devastating efficiency. Their ships, resembling abstract sculptures of light and metal, released swarms of autonomous fighters. These weren't merely machines, but extensions of the Axiom consciousness itself, each capable of split-second decisions that would take human pilots minutes to process. Centauri cruisers taking heavy fire in Sector 7, Walsh called out. Lithoid deep space units moving to reinforce. Alexandra worked frantically at her station, coordinating with coalition scientists to analyze Axiom attack patterns. The archives had given them weapons and shields, but the Axiom had spent millennia preparing for this moment. They'd known humanity would eventually rediscover their heritage. The battle's turning point came unexpectedly. A Lithoid scout detected an anomaly in the Axiom fleet's quantum signature. Their ships, Clara announced, her crystalline form vibrating with excitement. They're powered by compressed vacuum energy, the same technology your ancestors abandoned. Alexandra's eyes widened. The weapon, it's not just about disabling their suppression capabilities. It could disrupt their entire power grid. Reyes didn't hesitate. All ships, concentrate fire on these coordinates. Modified quantum torpedoes only. Let's show them what humanity remembers. The coalition fleet moved as one, their diverse technologies synchronized through interfaces derived from the Mars archives. Quantum torpedoes struck precise points in the Axiom formation, creating cascading reactions that rippled through their fleet. Energy spike. Rivera shouted. Something's happening to their core ships. The void itself seemed to shudder as ancient technology confronted its modern descendant. Axiom vessels began to lose power, their geometric perfection faltering as systems failed. But their response was immediate and devastating. They're activating some kind of failsafe, Alexandra warned. Energy readings off the scale. The Axiom flagship transformed, its surface flowing like mercury as it revealed weapon arrays that dwarfed anything they'd yet encountered. A beam of concentrated void energy lanced out, cutting through 3 coalition capital ships instantly. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Reyes ordered. Focus fire on that flagship before dash. His words were cut off as the Prometheus shook violently. Hull breach alarms screamed as void energy ate through their ancestral shields. Alexandra worked desperately to adapt their defenses, applying theories she'd gleaned from months studying the archives. The synthesis protocols, she muttered. They're using a corrupted version. That's how they maintain control. They took our ancestors' greatest fear and weaponized it. Through the chaos, Clara's crystalline form pulsed with revelation. Then we use it against them. Not as a weapon, but as it was intended, a bridge between organic and artificial consciousness. Understanding dawned in Alexandra's eyes. She pulled up the original synthesis schematics, comparing them to readings from the Axiom flagship. Their entire network is based on preventing this very thing. If we initiate a true synthesis sequence. Do it, Reyes commanded, watching more coalition ships fall to the Axiom's onslaught. Whatever happens, we face it together. Alexandra's fingers flew across her console, implementing changes that would have taken her ancestors years to perfect. The coalition fleet moved into formation around the Prometheus, their combined energy signatures forming patterns that hadn't been seen in the galaxy for hundreds of thousands of years. As the synthesis wave built around them, the Axiom flagship's attacks became desperate, erratic. They recognized what was coming, not an ending, but a transformation they had fought so long to prevent. The wave released, expanding outward in a sphere of pure possibility. Where it touched Axiom ships, their rigid geometric patterns began to flow, no longer bound by fear of change. The coalition fleet itself shimmered, organic and mechanical components finding new harmony. And in that moment, as consciousness met consciousness without barriers, the true history of the galaxy was finally understood. The synthesis wave changed everything. As consciousness flowed between organic and artificial beings, the truth emerged not in words but in shared understanding. Admiral Reyes experienced millennia of history in moments, seeing through the eyes of both humanity's ancestors and the Axiom themselves. They had all been one people once. The ancient humans hadn't disappeared, they had divided. One faction embraced the synthesis, becoming beings of pure thought and energy. Another chose regression, becoming modern humanity. And the third, fearing both extremes, became the Axiom, self-appointed guardians against change. Alexandra found herself connecting with an Axiom consciousness that had once been human, eons ago. We thought we were protecting the galaxy, the being communicated directly to her mind. We forgot that protection without choice is just another form of control. The battle had ceased. Ships hung motionless in space as their crews experienced the same revelation. The Lithoids, Centauri, and other coalition species added their own histories to the shared consciousness, completing a puzzle that had fragmented across time. Our ancestors didn't fail, Alexandra realized, sharing the thought across the network of minds. They gave us something more valuable than technology. They gave us choice. Through the synthesis, they understood the true power their ancestors had discovered, not the ability to transform matter or harness vacuum energy, but the power to choose their own path of evolution. The Axiom had feared this choice so much they'd spent millennia preventing other species from reaching it. Clara's crystalline consciousness resonated through the network. Every species develops differently. Some, like mine, evolved to survive in the void. Others, like the Centauri, became living crystal. Humanity's gift was adaptability, the ability to walk multiple paths. The Axiom flagship transformed, its geometric patterns flowing into organic curves. Its crew had remembered their original purpose, not to control, but to preserve knowledge until the galaxy was ready for choice again. Admiral Reyes stood on the Prometheus's bridge, now permanently altered by the synthesis. Mechanical and organic components flowed together seamlessly, not replacing humanity but enhancing it. What now? He asked, his thoughts reaching across space to the assembled consciousness of multiple species. The answer came from all of them at once. The time of isolation and fear was over. Each species would choose its own path, some remaining purely organic, others embracing full technological integration, and many finding balance points between. The axiom would return to their original role as guardians of knowledge, sharing rather than suppressing. Alexandra accessed the Mars archives one final time, but now she understood them completely. They weren't just technical schematics but a message from their ancestors: we give you not our answers, but the freedom to find your own. The coalition transformed into something new, the Galactic Concordat, where species could share knowledge while maintaining their unique paths. Humanity had found its place not as conquerors or subjects, but as bridges between the ancient and the new. Years later, Alexandra stood with her daughter on Mars, watching ships of countless designs sail through the solar system. Some were crystalline like the lithoids, others purely energy like the transcended ancients, and still others biomechanical like the transformed human vessels. The stars remember, she told her child, who was both more and less than human, exactly as she chose to be. They remember when we were one people, and when we divided, and when we learned to be many things at once. That's humanity's greatest strength, not what we were, but all that we can choose to become. Above them, the night sky filled with the light of civilizations choosing their own destinies, each one a testament to the legacy of those who had dared to let go of control and trust in the power of choice.